My name is Nile Sandeen. I'm a PhD student at Clamp Divinity School. I'm a pastor over at Lutheran Church of the Holy Trinity in Mount Pleasant, North Carolina. And I'm presenting a paper, A Pattern for Preaching, How Robert Smith Jr. Makes Doctrines Dance. And as that title suggests, this paper is particularly engaging Robert Smith's book, Doctrine That Dances. It's meant to be a supplement to this text, a practical supplement, especially helping those who struggle to apply this, particularly if they struggle to make that one leap from the page to the formation of a sermon, because practical step-by-step pieces are not necessarily included in the book. The paper does this and argues that this can be done by observing Smith's own preaching, and that from his own preaching a pattern emerges, and that this pattern helps us better understand doctrine that dances and how one can do it in an actual doctrinal sermon. And so the paper follows a couple steps. First, it looks at the primary metaphors of the book, the exegetical escort, the doxological dancer, and it looks at them particularly according to the unique element that Smith is advocating for doctrine. And what is the doctrine's relationship to the text, the exegetical escort? What is doctrine's relationship to the sermon, the doxological dancer? Once these things have been established so that one knows what they're intending to find in a doctrinal sermon, what a doctrinal sermon is meant to include, then it goes into some practical steps based on observation of Smith and looking at some of his wider works. The first is the formulation of a doctrinal proposition, which we'll break down to its most basic element in here as textual focus. What is God doing in the text? What is the text saying about God's activity? Textual function, how are we meant to respond to that? And plus doctrinal relevance. How does that get framed or relate to wider Bible-formed Christian belief? Once one learns how to develop the doctrinal proposition, then we look at the actual form that is presented in this pattern. And the pattern is a threefold form of going from truth to text to transformation. Truth movement is the primary doctrinal movement, in which after one has established the proposition as the main idea of the text, they then treat it doctrinally. That is, they look at it in relationship to wider Christian belief. They look at it in relationship to the Bible as a whole, doing biblical theology. They treat it doctrinally, topically. Once that has been established, so it's established as a truth not only from the text, but a truth for us Christians to believe, it becomes the controlling force as one goes back into the text for exposition. And after one has done their exposition in the text, where they can actually see the proposition, you might say, in motion, that is, they can experience it through the movement of the text itself, then we go to transformation, because you haven't just seen the doctrine, the proposition in motion. You haven't just experienced doctrine, you've experienced the God the doctrine is based on. Because God is the formulator, the actor in the sermon. And so the final movement is a doxological celebration that anticipates transformation because you met God. And that anticipated transformation is the movement of the truth from doctrine to belief, and a movement that is enabled by the text. Well, I certainly hope that intrigues you enough to read the paper and to perhaps come to the presentation. I certainly hope it serves as a helpful paper, especially for those who want to use Doctrine That Dances as a pedagogical tool, but struggle or watch others struggle with putting it into a concrete sermon. And the beautiful thing about this, especially in relationship to this year's EHS topic, is that what we see by exploring this form is a uniquely formed African American homiletic. That is, it's African American doctrinal treatment of the text. Because we see the way doctrine relates to Smith's wider biblical preaching convictions, including his African American heritage. And so I hope that that is helpful for and contributes to our larger topic as well. Well, I look forward to seeing you at the conference, and I hope you might consider coming to learn more and discuss more with me on this paper.